Welcome to Books and More, a channel where great ideas come to life through the power of books. In this episode, we explore The End of Procrastination by Petr Ludwig, a life-changing guide that helps you overcome delay, regain focus, and live with purpose. This book reveals that procrastination isn't about laziness, it's about losing direction. Through clear frameworks, motivation science, and practical tools, the author shows how to build discipline, find meaning, and enjoy the process of progress itself. Join Books and More to discover how changing your mindset can transform not just your habits, but your life. Introduction: Why we procrastinate and how to stop it. When I began studying procrastination, I realized that it wasn't just about laziness or poor time management. It was something much deeper, a reflection of how disconnected we've become from our sense of purpose. We live in an age of constant distraction, where the modern world keeps us busy but rarely fulfilled. We rush through days filled with emails, notifications, and endless to-do lists, yet we often end them with the same quiet thought: I didn't really move forward today. Procrastination is not simply a failure to act, it is a symptom of a larger problem. It is the result of losing sight of what truly matters. I, too, was once trapped in that loop. I postponed important things not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know where to begin. It wasn't a lack of motivation, it was a lack of clarity. My life was full of motion, but without direction. And so I began to ask myself, why do people postpone what they know is important? Why do we delay the very things that could make us happier and more fulfilled? Through years of research and observation, I came to understand that procrastination is a psychological defense mechanism. When we don't know our purpose, we replace meaningful work with easy distractions: scrolling, consuming, escaping. It feels good in the short term, but it silently erodes our sense of control. We think we're resting, but we're actually avoiding. We think we're free, but we're trapped in a cycle of guilt and self-blame. The more we avoid, the heavier life feels. That's why I wrote this book. The End of Procrastination isn't just about working faster or managing time better. It's about reconnecting with meaning. True motivation doesn't come from external rewards, pressure, or fear. It comes from knowing why we do what we do. When you understand your why, action becomes natural. You don't need to force yourself. You simply want to move forward because it aligns with who you are. In this book, I explore how motivation, discipline, results, and objectivity work together to help us build a life of purpose. Motivation gives us direction, discipline gives us consistency, results give us satisfaction, and objectivity gives us clarity. Together, they form the foundation for a fulfilled life, one where we act not out of fear or obligation, but out of conviction and awareness. You will not find empty slogans or unrealistic promises here. Instead, you'll discover practical tools grounded in psychology and experience, tools that can help you understand yourself, break unproductive cycles, and build habits that last. Ending procrastination isn't about becoming perfect. It's about making small, meaningful choices every day that lead you closer to the person you want to be. So, as you begin this journey, I invite you to pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple question: what am I postponing in my life right now? The answer to that question might be uncomfortable, but it's also the starting point of change. This is not a book about doing more, it's about living more. Motivation: the power of meaning. For years, I believed motivation was a feeling, something that either appeared magically or vanished without warning. I used to wait for it, hoping that one day I'd simply feel ready. But motivation, I discovered, is not something you find, it's something you build. It's not about willpower or excitement, it's about meaning. True motivation doesn't come from outside of us, it comes from understanding why we do what we do. When people talk about procrastination, they often mention a lack of time, energy, or focus. Yet the real issue lies deeper: a lack of purpose. When you don't know why something matters, it's easy to put it off. You may fill your days with busy work, but deep down, you feel disconnected and restless. You scroll through your phone, you promise to start tomorrow, and you end each day wondering why nothing really changed. The problem isn't laziness, it's the absence of a clear why. The human brain is wired to seek meaning. When we feel connected to something bigger than ourselves, a purpose, a vision, a goal that truly matters, we gain energy, courage, and clarity. But when our actions are disconnected from meaning, even small tasks become heavy and exhausting. That's why many people who appear successful on the outside feel empty inside. They have goals, but not direction. They have routines, but no vision. In my research and workshops, I found that most people confuse external motivation with internal motivation. External motivation is fueled by pressure, deadlines, rewards, praise, or fear of failure. It's powerful but short-lived. It pushes you, but it doesn't fulfill you. Internal motivation, on the other hand, is fueled by meaning. It comes from aligning your actions with your personal values and purpose. When you act out of inner conviction, effort becomes joy. You no longer need to be pushed, you're pulled forward naturally. To find that kind of motivation, you need to rediscover your personal why. Imagine your life as a journey. Without a compass, you might walk endlessly but never arrive anywhere meaningful. Your purpose is that compass. It doesn't have to be something grand or dramatic. It can be as simple as becoming a kinder person, creating something of value, or helping others grow. What matters is that it feels authentic to you. I often ask people, what would you do if success and failure didn't exist, if you could not lose? Most of them are silent for a long time. The question is difficult because many of us have spent years chasing other people's definitions of success. We've learned to please, perform, and prove ourselves, but not to listen. Rediscovering your why means pausing, reflecting, and asking, what truly fulfills me? What gives my life meaning beyond status or reward? Once you find that answer, motivation stops being a struggle. You no longer wake up wondering if you feel like it. You act because it aligns with your vision of who you want to be. You stop asking, what should I do today, and start asking, what brings me closer to my purpose? Still, meaning alone isn't enough. It must be connected to progress. Our brains thrive on a sense of improvement. Every time we make even the smallest step toward a goal, dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward, is released. It gives us a sense of satisfaction and encourages us to keep going. That's why I often tell people, don't chase perfection, chase progress. The joy of seeing yourself move forward, no matter how slowly, is what keeps the fire of motivation alive. When I began to apply this understanding in my own life, everything changed. I stopped trying to control motivation and started creating systems that supported it. I set small, clear goals connected to my long-term vision. I learned to celebrate small wins, finishing a page, completing a workout, or simply showing up. Every small success became proof that I was moving forward. Over time, these tiny steps built unstoppable momentum. One of the key ideas in this part of the book is journey-based motivation. Most people base their motivation on outcomes. They believe they'll be happy once they reach the goal. But life doesn't work that way. Every achievement brings only temporary satisfaction, followed by the next craving for more. The secret to lasting motivation is to shift your focus from results to process. Don't ask, when will I get there? Ask, how can I enjoy getting there? Journey-based motivation means falling in love with the act of doing. A writer must learn to write, not just publishing. A musician must love practicing, not only performing. When you focus on the process, your daily actions become rewards in themselves.
You stop running from task to task and start living in the flow, that deep, immersive state where time disappears and effort feels effortless. Of course, motivation is not constant. There will be days when you feel lost or tired. But when your actions are rooted in meaning, even those days have purpose. You understand that growth isn't linear. It's a rhythm of progress and rest, of movement and reflection. Instead of punishing yourself for feeling low, you use that time to reconnect with your purpose and realign your focus. Motivation also flourishes when it's shared. Meaning grows stronger in community. When you contribute to something beyond yourself, a team, a cause, a relationship, you gain energy that no individual goal can provide. We are wired for connection. Helping others not only gives your life meaning, it reinforces your own sense of direction and worth. Finally, motivation isn't about chasing happiness. It's about living with intention. Happiness, when pursued directly, often escapes us. But when we live purposefully, happiness follows naturally as a side effect. The paradox of motivation is that you don't find joy by striving for it, you find it by doing something meaningful. So, in this first part of the End of Procrastination, I invite you to stop searching for motivation as if it were lost. It's already within you, buried under noise, doubt, and distraction. Your task is to uncover it, nurture it, and align it with your daily life. When you know why you wake up each morning, everything else falls into place. Meaning gives birth to motivation. Motivation fuels discipline. Discipline shapes progress, and progress brings fulfillment. That is how we end procrastination. Not by forcing ourselves to act, but by remembering why it matters to act at all. Part 2. Discipline, the bridge between intention and action. Once we have found our motivation, our personal why, we often feel an initial burst of energy. For a few days or weeks, we are full of enthusiasm, determined to change everything. But soon, the excitement fades, distractions return, and we find ourselves right back where we started. This is where most people give up, believing they lack willpower or strength. But the truth is this: motivation gets you started, discipline keeps you moving. Without discipline, even the strongest motivation will eventually dissolve. In this part of the book, I explore discipline not as punishment or strict control, but as a form of freedom, the freedom that comes when your actions are aligned with your values, even when you don't feel like it. Many people think discipline means forcing yourself to do unpleasant things, but real discipline is not about self-torture. It's about creating systems that make good decisions easy and automatic. Our brains love comfort. Left on autopilot, we will always choose the path of least resistance, the easier task, the quick distraction, the instant reward. That's how procrastination thrives. But if we understand this, we can use it to our advantage. Discipline means designing your environment and routines so that the right choice becomes the easy choice. You don't need to fight yourself every day if the world around you supports your goals. For example, if you want to eat healthily, don't rely on willpower every time you open the fridge. Change what's in the fridge. If you want to read more, leave your phone in another room and put a book on your desk. If you want to exercise, prepare your clothes the night before. The key is not to be stronger, but to be smarter. Discipline is less about control and more about design. In my own experience, I learned that relying on motivation alone was exhausting. I would wake up determined, but as the day went on, energy and focus would fade. The more decisions I had to make, the harder it became to stay consistent. Then I realized discipline is not about having more willpower. It's about reducing the need for willpower. Every habit or system you build takes one decision off your plate. Over time, this creates momentum that carries you forward naturally. That's why building habits is the foundation of discipline. Habits are like autopilot programs for your brain. Once they're installed, they run with a little effort. But how do we form them? Every habit follows a simple loop: cue, action, reward. A cue is a trigger, like seeing your running shoes. The action is the behavior, going for a run, and the reward is the positive feeling afterward. By consciously reinforcing this loop, you can train your brain to associate good behaviors with pleasure rather than pain. The problem is that we often expect discipline to feel good immediately, but real change takes time. In the beginning, new habits are uncomfortable. They require conscious effort. Your brain resists because it prefers the familiar. But if you stay consistent long enough, the discomfort fades and the new behavior becomes natural. I often say, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be consistent. Progress grows from repetition, not intensity. Another essential part of discipline is learning to manage your attention. In today's world, attention is the most valuable currency. Every beep, notification, and message is designed to steal it from you. Every time you switch tasks, your brain needs time to refocus, and these constant shifts drain your mental energy. That's why I encourage people to work in focused blocks, 50 minutes of deep work, followed by a 10-minute break. During that time, silence your phone, close your tabs, and give one task your full attention. You'll accomplish more in one focused hour than in 5 distracted ones. But even with good systems, discipline requires one more element: self-compassion. Many people associate discipline with harshness, the inner voice that scolds them for not being enough. But this voice doesn't help, it paralyzes. When you fail or miss a day, you don't need punishment, you need understanding. Failure is not the opposite of discipline, it's part of it. The people who succeed are not the ones who never fail, but the ones who fail and start again, again, and again. In fact, one of the greatest lessons I've learned is that discipline and kindness must coexist. Discipline without kindness becomes cruelty. Kindness without discipline becomes weakness. When combined, they create balance, the strength to act and the patience to grow. So, when you fall off track, don't ask, "Why did I fail?" Ask, "What can I learn?" Then adjust your system and keep going. Another trap I often see is the obsession with perfection. Many people delay starting something because they want the perfect moment. They wait for the perfect plan, perfect idea, perfect mindset. But perfection is a mirage. It doesn't exist. Discipline means acting even when things are imperfect. It's about doing what you can with what you have right now. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the most important. Once you move, momentum takes over. To stay consistent, I recommend creating rituals, small, predictable actions that signal your brain it's time to work. For example, making tea before writing, lighting a candle before reading, or stretching before exercise. Rituals anchor your discipline in rhythm, not emotion. You no longer ask yourself, "Do I feel like doing this?" You just do it because it's part of who you are. The more I studied successful people, the more I realized they all share this same trait. They don't rely on motivation, they rely on systems. They understand that waiting for inspiration is a trap. Inspiration grows from action, not the other way around. Once you start moving, your brain releases dopamine, and suddenly you want to keep going. Action fuels motivation, not vice versa. At its core, discipline is about trusting yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you build self-respect. And self-respect creates confidence. When you say, "I'll do this," and you do, you're proving to your own mind that you're reliable. This inner trust is what allows you to take bigger risks and chase larger dreams. By the end of this part, I want you to see discipline not as restriction, but liberation. It is the structure that holds your purpose together when emotions fluctuate. It's the quiet force that helps you act even when no one is watching. Discipline doesn't limit your freedom, it creates it. Because true freedom is not doing whatever you want whenever you want. True freedom is having the power to do what you know is right, even when it's difficult. So, if motivation is the spark that lights the fire, discipline is the steady oxygen that keeps it burning. It doesn't shout or demand attention, it simply carries you forward, one choice at a time. Every morning you show up, every promise you keep, every small action you repeat, these are acts of discipline. And over time, they built something far greater than productivity. They built character. When you master discipline, procrastination loses its power. You stop waiting for the right moment and start creating it. You realize that the secret isn't in working harder, but in showing up consistently. Because in the end, success is not the result of one grand decision. It's the result of thousands of small ones made with clarity, patience, and purpose. And that's what discipline truly is. The bridge between intention and action, between who you are and who you are becoming.
Part 3. Results. The art of turning action into fulfillment. After discovering motivation and mastering discipline, we naturally start to seek results. It's human nature. We want to see progress, to know that our efforts matter. But in chasing results, many people fall into a hidden trap. They confuse achievement with fulfillment. They believe that success, wealth, recognition, or status will finally make them happy. Yet, when they reach those goals, they often feel the same emptiness as before. Why? Because results alone cannot create meaning. What truly fulfills us is who we become in the process of achieving them. When I began teaching about procrastination, I noticed something curious. Many high-performing people, executives, entrepreneurs, artists, were incredibly productive, yet deeply dissatisfied. They were constantly pushing themselves toward the next milestone, unable to rest or enjoy the moment. Their sense of worth depended entirely on external validation. It was as if they were climbing an endless mountain, never stopping to admire the view. That's when I realized that results without reflection become a form of slavery. We become addicted to achievement instead of nourished by it. The key to lasting fulfillment is not in achieving more, but in redefining what results mean. Instead of asking, "What did I get?" we should ask, "What did I learn? How have I grown? Who have I helped?" Real results are not just outcomes. They are evidence of inner development. When you measure success not by trophies but by transformation, your work gains depth. You stop running from failure and start using it as feedback. Another crucial idea is understanding that results are built through consistency, not intensity. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. They start with fire and end in ashes because they expect immediate change. But growth doesn't work that way. Progress is rarely visible day to day, yet over time, it compounds quietly. The small, repeated choices you make, eating well, writing daily, saving a little, listening carefully, these are the true builders of your future. Our brains love progress. Even tiny wins release dopamine, the reward chemical that keeps us moving. That's why it's essential to celebrate small victories. Don't wait for huge success to feel proud. Recognize the courage it takes just to show up. Every time you complete a meaningful action, no matter how small, you're proving to yourself that you are capable of change. This creates a positive loop. Progress fuels confidence, and confidence fuels more progress. But results are not just personal, they're also emotional. Many of us tie our happiness to achievements, believing that once we make it, we'll finally feel peace. But happiness built on conditions is fragile. The moment we lose the job, the project fails, or someone else outshines us, our sense of worth collapses. That's why we must learn emotional resilience, the ability to stay grounded regardless of external outcomes. Resilience comes from perspective. When something goes wrong, you can choose to see it as a failure or as a lesson. The most successful people I've met are not those who avoid problems, but those who interpret them differently. They understand that life's challenges are not punishments, but opportunities to grow stronger. Pain, when faced consciously, becomes wisdom. I often tell people, don't chase happiness, cultivate stability. Happiness is a moment, stability is a foundation. When you are emotionally stable, you can experience joy without fear, and sadness without despair. You can fail without collapsing, and succeed without arrogance. This stability comes from living in alignment with your values. When your actions reflect your beliefs, you experience harmony. Another powerful lesson I've learned is the importance of objectivity in evaluating results. We tend to exaggerate both success and failure. A single good day can make us feel unstoppable. One mistake can make us want to quit.
But real growth happens between those extremes. Objectivity allows us to see reality. Not better, not worse, just as it is. When you view your progress with honesty and balance, you stop riding the emotional roller coaster of overconfidence and self-doubt. To sustain progress, you must also embrace the process of reflection. Reflection transforms activity into awareness. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what went well? What could I improve? What did I learn? This simple habit connects your actions to meaning and prevents you from living on autopilot. Without reflection, you risk becoming efficient but directionless, moving fast but going nowhere. The third component of meaningful results is contribution. Humans are not designed to live only for themselves. When your work benefits others, when your effort creates value beyond your personal gain, you experience a deeper satisfaction. Helping others doesn't diminish your success, it multiplies it. Contribution turns achievement into legacy. It transforms "I did this" into "we made this possible." Finally, results are not about perfection. They're about progress and presence. The most fulfilled people I know don't chase endless goals. They live fully in each step of their journey. They've learned that fulfillment doesn't come from the future, but from how we engage with the present. Each action, each challenge, each small step is already part of the result. In the end, results are not separate from motivation and discipline. They are the natural expression of both. Motivation gives you purpose, discipline gives you direction, and results give you feedback. Together, they form a cycle of growth that never ends. So as you reflect on your own path, ask yourself, what kind of results am I truly seeking? If your answer is only numbers or achievements, you will always want more. But if your answer includes growth, joy, connection, and meaning, you've already succeeded because you're living consciously. The real result of ending procrastination is not simply doing more. It's becoming more aware, more disciplined, more alive. It's waking up each day knowing that your actions matter, your time has purpose, and your life is moving in the direction that truly belongs to you.
Part 4. Objectivity. Seeing life as it truly is. When I started studying human behavior, one of the most surprising discoveries I made was this: people are not rational. We like to think we make logical decisions, but most of the time we act from emotion and then justify it with logic afterward. This emotional bias isn't a flaw, it's part of being human. But if we want to live wisely, to end procrastination and self-sabotage, we must learn to see reality more clearly. That's what objectivity means, not cold detachment, but honest awareness. Objectivity is the ability to step outside your own thoughts and emotions and observe them without judgment. It is the art of asking what is truly happening right now, instead of reacting automatically. When we're objective, we stop being victims of our feelings and start becoming their observers. We can feel sadness without being consumed by it, experience fear without being paralyzed, and celebrate joy without clinging to it. This clarity is essential not only for personal growth, but also for peace of mind. Our brains, however, resist objectivity. They crave certainty and comfort. When something challenges our beliefs or threatens our ego, we instinctively distort reality to protect ourselves. This is called cognitive bias, the tendency to see the world not as it is, but as we want it to be. We confirm what we already believe, ignore what makes us uncomfortable, and defend opinions that make us feel safe. These biases cloud our judgment and keep us stuck in cycles of denial and procrastination. For example, when we avoid a difficult task, we often tell ourselves, "I work better under pressure," even though deep down we know it's not true. Or when we fail, we blame bad luck rather than examining our choices. These mental shortcuts protect our self-image in the short term, but destroy our growth in the long term. Objectivity begins the moment we dare to say, "Maybe I'm wrong." To develop objectivity, we must first practice self-observation. Imagine stepping outside your mind and watching your thoughts as if they belonged to someone else. Ask yourself, what am I thinking? Why am I feeling this way? Is this emotion helping me or holding me back? This awareness doesn't remove emotion, it transforms it. When you can label your thoughts and feelings clearly, you create distance between stimulus and response. That distance is freedom. One of the most effective tools for building objectivity is reflection. Take a few minutes every day to write down what you noticed, what went well, what triggered stress, what you learned. The goal is not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. Over time, you'll begin to see patterns, how your mood changes with certain habits, how small triggers lead to avoidance, how your beliefs shape your decisions. Reflection is like holding up a mirror to your mind. It reveals what was previously hidden. Objectivity also applies to how we view others. Most conflicts in life come from misunderstanding, from believing our perception is the only truth. But every person sees the world through their own lens, a unique mix of experiences, fears, and desires. When we learn to consider another perspective, we become less reactive and more compassionate. Instead of labeling someone as wrong, we start asking, why do they see it that way? This shift doesn't make us weak, it makes us wise. Another part of objectivity is acceptance, not passive resignation, but the courage to face things as they are. We often waste enormous energy wishing things were different, a past we can't change, a future we can't control. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up, it means acknowledging reality before deciding how to act. You cannot change what you refuse to see. When you accept reality fully, you regain your power to respond. I often tell my students that the opposite of objectivity is illusion. Illusions feel good, they comfort us, but they also trap us. For instance, perfectionism is an illusion, the belief that if we just try hard enough, we can make everything flawless. Control is another illusion, thinking we can predict or manage everything that happens. Both lead to anxiety and paralysis. Objectivity frees us by replacing illusion with awareness. You stop fighting the world and start working with it. The practice of objectivity doesn't remove emotion from life, it deepens emotion. When you see reality clearly, you appreciate moments of joy more fully because you know they're temporary. You face pain more calmly because you know it too will pass. You stop running from discomfort and start learning from it. Objectivity transforms chaos into clarity. Developing this mindset takes patience. It's not something you achieve once and for all. It's something you cultivate daily. You'll still make mistakes, react emotionally, and lose perspective. But each time you catch yourself, you grow stronger. Over time, you'll notice that the space between reaction and awareness gets bigger, and in that space, life becomes lighter, calmer, and more intentional. Finally, objectivity connects back to everything we've learned so far. Motivation gives us direction, discipline keeps us moving, results show us progress, but objectivity keeps us balanced. It prevents motivation from becoming obsession, discipline from becoming rigidity, and results from becoming vanity. It is the quiet wisdom that holds everything together. When we live objectively, we stop fighting ourselves. We stop demanding that life be different and start engaging with it as it is. We begin to see that happiness isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of clarity. So, as this journey comes to an end, remember, ending procrastination isn't just about doing more, it's about seeing more clearly. It's about stepping out of illusion and into awareness. Because once you can see yourself and the world as they truly are, you no longer waste energy resisting reality. You live with presence, with peace, and with purpose. And that, I believe, is the ultimate freedom.